friends. This is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average babes come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A place where being yourself is the ultimate goal, where your opinion, your story, and your individual experience matters. Join me, your host B, and my guests for real and raw talks every week, laying it all out there so we can all help each other learn more, grow deeper, and evolve collectively. Now keep in mind, as a disclaimer, no one here is an expert and no one is giving any advice. This is strictly our opinions, thoughts, feelings, and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. I hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I am the host of the show. And today, you guys, we're on episode 190, season 8 opener, baby. We made it. We did one whole season by ourselves. And now we're going to be doing the other 3. I don't know why we're saying we. When I say we, please think about me, my multiple personalities, and my cats. Just kidding. But you guys, I'm so excited to be back in studio. If you guys can see, I have a different landscape here, and I have no fucking idea where my camera is. I'm trying so hard to figure it out. I think it's over here. So if I'm looking weird in this one, I will learn this for the second one, and I'll do better. But I'm really trying to show up with just a different view this time. So we're apparently, allegedly, YouTubers and podcasters are supposed to do it landscape. So we're going to give it a try. I've got more of a background here. So working at getting a better background, and you will see me hit my elbows several times as I'm trying to get used to this new location. So thank you guys again so much for showing up. Y'all, it's been amazing. I cannot wait to get started on another season. The winter is coming, so I'm going to need something to keep me out of winter depression, which you guys know is going to be me running my mouth. So before we get into this amazing episode where me and Kay jump back to season 1 and we catch up with all of the things we talked about in season 1 and where are we now. It's just such a great episode. I'm so excited for you guys to hear, and I have a wicked dope lineup for this season for you guys already. All lined up already 6 weeks out. I am so excited. So before we jump onto this amazing episode, I just want to remind you, if you are watching on YouTube or Rumble, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, comment for engagement. You guys, I know I keep saying that, but you have no idea how much that means to me. It helps boost me in the algorithms, all of those things. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, you can also leave a review, follow, and turn on notifications, even though your babe drops an episode every Friday starting September 6th, which will be the launch of this episode, and every Friday until the end of January, maybe a little bit into February. We'll see. And then also, if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on, TikTok at the Be Real Babe, and you can find me on Instagram at the Be Real Babe podcast. And I'm still probably going to throw out some Pinterests from time to time, so you can find me there at the Be Real Babe podcast as well. But as always, guys, just super appreciative of you, of everything. If you have a story, you want me to cover something, you know somebody that has a story, please always reach out. I'm always here. I always want to hear your story. It fucking matters. And I promise you, you'll feel so good when you get it out there and feel the ripple effect of sharing your story. So with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Hey. All right, babes, it's time to get on to the show. And with me today, I have my very best special guest, Kayla. Hey, babe, how's it going?
What up, girl? It's great. It's nice to be back again. See you again. This feels good. It's nice, right? It's like we got so busy with life and other things and right? And then to come back. So I love it. I love coming back every we did it the last time. Now we're doing this one. I even brought back this. Yes! I wore this for our first meeting and our first podcasting video together, and I was like, I'm bringing that shit back.
I love how nostalgic you are, as I am too, and I think that's why it means so much every time you come back, because as we said before, it's just because everyone got busy. So whenever you girlies can come back, it just lights up my soul, because like you said, it feels good. It feels natural to be here, and
so different from the very first fucking episode. Hey.
And what was really cool is one of the guests reached out to me, and she said that she's noticed every season how I level up in the content and what we're doing. And I think that's just us as people, even if you've been on the show or not, in the background helping. Because the last couple seasons, you've been there, you've just not been on screen with me, right? Mm-hmm. You're there through all of it. You're just not like you were at the beginning. But
Yeah.
yeah, looking back at season 1, I always kind of giggle because it was just audio. And you remember how afraid we were to go on video and
Just
like
to
have
use
our
our have
face?
our voice, yeah, like we had even just to have our voices, like hear our
Yes.
voices back. Like both of you and I had such a hard time like listening to our own voices. And I was like, I fucking hated it at first. Now I'm like, whatever.
It's just another voice to me now. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
like at first it was real cringy, and not even just my voice, just like how I talked or the things that I said, or I'd be like, Brandy, shut the fuck up and let your guest talk. Like, but my anxiety just makes me go. And the minute I hear dead air, I'm like, I gotta fill the air. I gotta fill the air. Keep talking. And then it's like,
Yeah.
girl, pause. Then if they don't answer, then you can fill. So yeah, I feel very proud of where we
The
started
growth.
to
The
where we are.
growth
Yeah. And
in
just like
all aspects.
totally. And like we said in the last episode of leaving season 7, how we like text each other about like different things that we've grown, and situations that we've just done better in just as individuals, even outward, inward. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's why this episode, guys. And as you notice, I have a little bit of a different background, so I'm like confused where to even look right now. But
Oh.
I know I've been doing portrait the whole time. And so now I'm doing landscape to see
Okay.
and see how I like it. So it could be gone by next episode. I don't know. This is our first time, but because I try to switch it up every season, I
Yes.
kind of really
Okay.
committed to my background and my egg chair and my lights. And so I was like, what am I going to do different? So we thought orientation. I'll try and
Yeah, I
do
like that. Okay.
different.
I
See.
noticed, yeah, I noticed, yeah, it's a lot like it's this way more than
Yeah,
it's this way.
exactly. And
That's
so
that's my knowledge of
yes.
it, friends.
Well, yeah, there you go. This way to
This
that way.
way.
And if you aren't
Oh,
looking, that's portrait to landscape if you're
yeah,
on the podcast. But to
hands.
the point, yeah, like I'm at first it was like, yeah, we were scared to even just say what we had to say. So we're like, let's go with personal experiences because political comments, like that's a whole other world we're not ready to tackle. But let's
We
talk
weren't
about
ready.
no, let's talk about our experiences and make our community fall in love with us. And then we'll be like, haha, we're conspiracy theorists. Just kidding.
We had to open up personally, right? Like we had to
Yeah.
we became relatable, I think. And
Hmm.
I think that's why the show still is going in the trajectory that it's going because it's like we're just two fucking homegirls from
Yeah.
like you're from the island originally. I'm
Yep.
here now, but we're still BC together. So it's
Mhm.
like literally two homegirls from two separate cities, just trying to fucking understand the world, understand ourselves, and understand each other. And yeah, I
We
don't know.
did it.
It was really fucking cool.
Yeah, like we've done it. Like I just think back to, when we first started talking, and that's why in this episode I wanted us to talk about all the topics of season 1 to show our growth from those that have watched, or even now you can go back to season 1 and listen to how young we sound and how little and how nervous we were. But I think we did so good. I think for us that anxiety is like creative anxiety, so we can channel it well.
Yes.
And now it's just a little bit more confidence behind it. And then yeah, I actually
Yeah,
got an
we're
email. Sorry.
familiar. No,
I got
yeah,
an
we're familiar.
email today. I posted it. Spotify had said thanks for being a part of the beta testing that's now produced over 250,000 videos now uploaded on Spotify through all creators. And so it was just
Wow.
really cool because remember how we were like asked to be a part of the beta testing, and we're like, I didn't really realize that it was a small amount of people. I thought it was just like, people that were just constantly posting. But to read
Okay.
now, it was just a handful of podcasters. Like, I don't know how much the handful it was, but now it's everybody that has a podcast has access to videos on Spotify. So it was just
Cool.
really cool to know that in 2020, when we actually started leaning in and talking about more government shit, is when we actually got the ability to upload video through the Spotify platform. So that was a really cool email today to be like, thanks for being a part of it. I'm like, thank you for asking us.
Right? Like
Yeah. And
that's
not
so
silencing us.
crazy.
Yeah, like Spotify has had its flags. I do know that, we did get the COVID flags a couple times on some
Yes,
of
we did.
our, but they never gave me any problems. They always
Yeah,
just
like
said,
YouTube, they were never
yeah,
like, "Oh, hey, you violated our
everything. What didn't I
Facebook.
violate?
You
Yeah.
violated our guidelines." Guidelines are that, just that. They're
Yeah.
like loose rules,
Yeah,
guidelines,
exactly.
right?
And what does
Like,
that mean? I remember the one I got a flag on YouTube. It was a Hollywood episode, and it said that I was cyberbullying. And like
oh,
nobody that we talked about on the episodes with, I can't, where's my camera? Like anybody I talked about, there's no way that any of those celebrities would have been listening to me to say that I was cyberbullying them. Like, come
right?
on. I would just
Yeah,
the
like let's
flags
be
that we would
real.
get. Like, fuck off. Seriously, let's be real. So yeah, so going back season 1. My God, that was March. Yeah, March 1st, 2020. So sorry, we got at the end, I think, is of 2020 is when we got the invitation. So yeah, March 1st, 2020, I believe was our first podcast. And that is when, was it? Yeah, it had to have been 2020. Or was it 2021? I can't
I don't
remember.
know. I feel like
Everything's
part
so
of me wants to
blurred.
think it's 2021
Yeah, I know. But then I'm like,
because
what?
my accident was in August
Yeah, of
and we
2020.
were, yes, and we were starting like we were talking.
Right. Planning
And
October
then
2020.
I still had like it was after my accident for sure.
Hmm. That's
I
right.
feel like because
Yeah,
I
so
remember
March
us
2021.
recording and or trying to record, and I was like, I fucking can't. Like, I can't even look at the light.
Yes, I do
Like,
remember that. And you'd get headaches or whatever, or we'd be recording and then your like concussion brain would like take over and you're like,
it was
what?
like, no, bitch, you have
Yeah,
to
it's
lay
like you're
down
not.
in a dark room for a
Yeah.
fucking week.
Yes. And I remember watching you like trying to do your schooling in your little like chair and trying to like watch the lights and stuff like that. So like the massive growth. So yeah, so I'd say now by the time we launch, yeah, we've been talking for 4 years now. Like we started talking about it, like you said, October 2020, and then launch. Yeah, because I started at Valens.
Yes.
Then it was like launch the podcast, start your career that day too. Like what I remember being so nervous about work and then nervous to launch the podcast. I was like, girl, what the fuck are you doing to yourself?
Just like so much change all at once, like the biggest transitions you could possibly go through. Because
Yes, because
yeah,
I was on stress leave before that.
we were
Yeah,
talking when you were on stress leave. I remember
yeah,
you working there at Flower, and then
yeah,
I remember you going on that stress leave because
yeah,
we were talking, and I was like, girl, you should just like do what's right for you. Like, I support whatever decision you make. Like,
yeah.
I'll be
And it
here.
was nuts. And we were still going through it. And I was like, no, this podcast I think is a perfect distraction leading up to starting work. And then the first day, it was stressful, but I couldn't go online to see how the podcast was doing. I had to focus on my job. So I didn't really get to look until my lunch, which I think is good because, like if y'all think it's hard to not refresh your Instagram and social media, try not refreshing your podcast listens and views because let me tell you, that is
Yeah,
addicting because I just get so excited with everyone. And so it kind of holds me back from looking. And then that I don't get addicted to the numbers because I will admit I was definitely there for a long time where I would worry about, oh, this episode did better, so maybe I didn't do a good job. Like there was so much of my insecurities I had to face while we
yeah,
were doing this. It was really great, but it was also like gut
a
wrenching at the same
lot.
time to realize
Yeah,
how unhealed you actually weren't. And this podcast was a fucking mirror for both of us, I feel like.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, that's why I think we get along so well. Like,
Yes,
they like soulmates are like a mirror to each other. And
totally.
it's, I don't know, you just kind of show each other what needs to be healed, and then it heals, but it's cool to like have a friendship in it too, you know? So yeah,
Totally.
really, really dope. I really highly suggest that if you know someone that you love enough, or you just want to just try something new with them, get on the
Hmm.
get start a podcast. Yeah,
Do
it
it.
was so crazy the day you fucking texted it too. I was like, this bitch is in my head. She knows what I'm thinking. I was thinking this year. I don't know why, but fuck yeah, let's do it full send. And we never looked back.
No. And remember the first night we talked and we're like, okay, let's get on a phone call and let's just see how
Yes,
we
let's meet
vibe,
each
right?
other.
Let's
Yes,
meet each other and talk on the phone. And I think it was like maybe even half an hour into the call, that white owl flew into my backyard,
yes,
right? And I was like, girl,
yes.
hold on, I gotta go get Frank. I gotta go take a picture of this white owl. And then we went and looked after it. It was like such a good sign that I'd seen that and it'd been on the night that we had talked. And I think both of us,
You
just
put it on
because,
the podcast show, I
yeah,
think, or like
I
you
did. Yeah.
posted it. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was sick. That was a
Yeah.
sick sign
It was to me, it was the universe confirming like, yeah, you guys are onto something, not just for
on the
yourselves,
path.
yeah, and for other people, and just go for it, don't be afraid. And I think both of us, like I said, I just needed you to be like, I'm here and let's do this. And
Yeah.
I didn't know what we were doing, but I knew we could figure it out.
I
And
legitimately became a content creator for a little bit too, like
you did when
that.
we had our
And I was
Patreon.
like surprised, but it comes back and it's handy. Like, it's like, fuck yeah, she taught me how to do that shit. Like, that's really cool.
And
Yeah,
like
because
even
I'm
just
not tech savvy.
no, and you're doing so, and you do so good too, right? And that's the thing too. Well, I will say if you do jump into this, like you guys have to learn to practice all of the things, right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't beautiful. Like we had to dive into deep shit and then talk to each other about it while essentially kind of triggering each other, not like on purpose, by just like proxy of talking about stuff. And
Yeah.
then we had to face it and we had to do that together. And like you were going through your shit and we were learning how to communicate to each other, right? Because neither
Yeah.
of us wanting to disappoint each other and maybe doing behaviors that we had in past friendships. And then we were
Yeah.
realizing like that doesn't work for us and it's not going to
It's
work
not
for
what we
us.
want to do. Yeah.
No, and we were so good, and then we got to the point where honesty was the number one policy over, like, hurting each other's feelings. That's not what I'm saying, but I
Yeah.
think we
Yeah.
learned
No, I know
how
exactly what you mean.
to deliver things, right? Because I remember you'd
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, B, I can't because of, like, my head's hurting or school or cash or whatever it was," and you'd
Yeah.
be worried to tell me that because you didn't wanna disappoint me, and I'm just like, "Please don't ever feel that way because it's
Yeah.
not a disappointment, just be real with me," but we both didn't have a friendship in the past that validated that those behaviors were okay.
Yeah.
So, it took a leap of faith in trusting each other, and I'm sure a few bumps and bruises, and we've had hard talks, but I don't think we
Yeah.
ever
We have.
actually fought.
We've
Like,
never fought.
no.
It's never been like that with you. And that's why I think it's one of the coolest things that we met online, like social
Mhm.
media, that we were able to come together and connect like that. And then to have the conversations, because I remember like we've had some tough conversations and it's never been like a shameful or a guilt thing. It's just like, this is how this makes me feel. How do you feel about it? Or the vice versa. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not attacking one another, not blaming one another, not shaming one, that was what made it so easy, because we could just openly talk to one another, and it was like there was no judgment, like no whatever. We always had that on the table. And like I love when I get we well like I'll feel spicy one day and I'll be like, "Hey, I need to drop some shit on you." And then you'll be like, "Hey, can I be like a see you next Tuesday for a minute?" And I'm
Always.
like, "Always. Always."
My
Like,
cunty comment of the week, please.
and it's perfect because you
It
can
is.
you can say those things that most people wouldn't say because you're worried about being
Yes.
judged, but like that's not in our partnership and our friendship. So it's been
Mhm.
a really big slice of fucking cake over here for
Yeah.
I love it. Like, it's been cool.
And it's not like toxic positivity too, like, and it's not always like,
No.
like even if we're like dumping, like we all know it's just shit and we don't mean it, like
Hmm.
surface level stuff that you just have to get out, right? And I feel like me and
Yes.
you are really good, especially in relationships, because I find past friends I struggled to be honest about my relationship because they'd hold on to like the one thing that that
Yes.
spouse did, and then they'd hold it against them as a tire person, and
Hmm.
then start acting as if my spouse was a piece of shit because I was just sharing one off moment or one thing.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that me and you have never done. Like, even if we fight with our spouses and maybe we converse of like how we deal with it and just work it out before we like rip their faces off, let's say, there's
Yep.
never been like, well, there's this one time that Ryan did this, or there's one time that Grant did this. And
No,
you know what I mean? It's
I
not
don't
that at
hold on to
all.
that shit.
Exactly. Even though at the same time, because we've been able to share the good, bad, and the ugly, like we can also recall things and give better opinions,
Yes.
knowing the full story. Ow. And I find like with some people, guys, I got to get used to my new situation here. I find with like certain people, like I feel like you have to hide certain things, or maybe you just tell them the positive so
Yeah.
that when you say something negative, they don't believe you. Or maybe, and I do not understand this, women that constantly just bash their men, and then, you know what I mean? And then it's like your friend hates your spouse. And it's like, I don't want you to
Right.
hate him, but I want to be honest. So it's like, it's so beautiful that we can have those conversations without holding, like you said, that judgment of whatever. It's like, I'm here to listen. Like, and we've called each other in our darkest hours, like,
Oh,
when
dude.
we're, right, like having hard times, like there's been a couple times.
Oh my God. Like, holy fuck. I remember like one time specifically, I won't talk about what was going on. I just know that you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but I am quite sure I had to call you and I was like I was about to go over the edge and I just drove straight to the fucking ocean. And I didn't even take my clothes off. I was like, I need Jesus right now. And I
You did.
was like, let's just baptize Kayla.
Yes.
Full clothes. I just walked right in with my hands up in the air. And I got out and I got in the truck and I fucking called Brandy and we sat there and she talked me off one of the biggest ledges I think I've ever been on. And that's like when you know that like it's such a solid friendship. Like
Totally.
yeah, fuck. That
I
I
do
needed
remember
you.
that.
Oh my God, I needed you like so many times, and then it's just like, oh
But it
my
was so
God.
beautiful that you let me
Oh
do that, right? And like some people just don't. They sit in it. And then that's what continues whatever cycle that you're in, whatever thought process you're in. If you don't have
yes.
someone to help
If I
smack you
don't
out of it,
tell this girl that she needs to call me out and like pull me back,
yeah,
then I'm gonna
exactly.
go over. It's
Totally.
not gonna be good, right?
No.
So
And like sometimes we lose toenails in the ocean when we're doing things like, We break our feet,
Oh,
like,
fuck.
but we just need it, right? And like that moment when you called me and you needed me that night, it made me understand how solid our friendship was. It was like, okay, no, like she literally loves me and she literally is going to listen to me and respects me, like to
Yeah.
call me. And even when you came up here with your year sober too, to be able to do that
Oh,
and be like, hey, can I come to the wineries and can you help me through this, work through my year of sobriety,
that
and it
was
wasn't like,
wild.
right, and you did it, and you did it, and we had such a good time, and I
It
was
was
able to
so
show
fun.
you, yeah, and like I was able to show you that, and you got to leave here with your pride of not drinking, your pride of accepting your body and seeing all the other people. I know that was a huge thing for you when you came up to Kelowna that first time,
Oh, it
was
was
confronting
shocking.
your dysmorphia and being like,
Yeah.
holy shit, yeah, there is all these types of bodies out there. I don't have to feel like shit about myself. Like,
Yeah.
I think every time was so beautiful. And so yeah, like back to the point of like, yeah, every time we get together it's super exciting because like although this only happens a handful of times, like we're still talking to each other almost every single day, if not
Yes.
sending memes every single day. And so it's just cool when we can come on here and then share with you guys all of our growth. So bringing it all back to what we
Bring it
first
back.
started, circling around the whole corporate lingo
Circle
there.
back.
We'll circle back to these points here. So to the point of like our first couple seasons are talking about experiences and how we felt about stuff because we felt like if we could show people who we really were and where our hearts were, throw it all out there, then maybe when we started talking about the more controversial stuff at that time, especially like COVID and vaccines, maybe it would be more accepted when people understood where our hearts were and where we were. So I think we did a
Yeah.
really smart job doing that for the first 2 seasons. And then season 3, it was like after the Freedom Convoy, let's fucking go. I'm
Yeah.
done. And it's been a fucking wild ride ever since. So, first episode, we, besides like getting to know us, which I'd say again, think it's so funny that people probably don't know the first episode, we didn't actually even record together because
Nope.
the first episode we could not get together. So we just recorded our episodes separately, our pieces, and I just like edited them together.
Literally stitched it together. And you can't even tell. Like, I've had
No,
my fiance listen, and I'm like, can you hear anything like glitchy in it's like the beginning part of this or whatever? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh. He's like, why? And I'm like, oh, well, we weren't even recording together. It was just like I did mine, she
packing it
did
back
hers,
together.
and then she just put them together. I
That's
still to this
beautiful.
day, I'm like, that is the coolest fucking thing. You just fuse two things. Like,
Just Googled it, man. Just Google it, YouTube
love
it.
it.
You could
Your
teach
brain is
yourself
great.
anything. Thank you. And to that point, just quickly before we dive into that, oh my God, so many other ones. But being like learning how to communicate and understanding how each other works in the piece where, let's say, we're going into a season and it's overwhelming the amount of stuff we have to do. And
Yeah.
especially at that time, you had school. Cash was definitely like having some things with school and,
Oh
all that
God.
time. And you had your concussion at the same time. And so, yeah, like I do remember how stressed out you get. And then I came up with like the folders and the organization, and I showed you my organization brain, and you're like,
Yeah.
you just changed my life. And then how beautiful is that, this last Friday we get together and we're starting to talk about weddings, and I'm like, girl, let's get an Excel going and let's start
Let's get a
figuring this out.
spreadsheet going. Yeah,
And then
it
it's
was
like,
awesome.
it was so great to hear you go, okay, this makes me feel so much better, because I'm like, because I know how to communicate. You know how my brain works, I know how your
Yeah.
brain works, and so it's like,
Pulling
hey,
it all in.
let's figure this out together. Like, we don't have to do this separately, we can work through this. So anyways, back to our first topics.
Anyways.
So many different roundabouts. So anxiety was one of the first things that we talked about outside of like getting to know us,
Yeah.
because that was something that we both heavily suffered with. And I'm not going to say that I don't suffer with it anymore. But I have come personally leaps and bounds since the last 3 years and since we originally talked about it personally. My only remaining anxiety generally comes from driving.
Yeah.
And honestly, if someone's going hard on me on social media, I'm still like trying to get used to like the aggression that can
Yeah.
happen, especially now being on
It's
TikTok. Follow
shocking.
us there. It's a little bit shocking what people would say to you that they don't know you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with anxiety. I feel like it's situational now. I am not making up these, like, it's still there. Don't get me wrong. Like, for an example, today, went to boxing. Obviously, that's why I look like this. Did not plan that properly, but love both of them, so I don't fucking care. Um, so today we're in a private space, right? So it's just me and coach, me and Jordan, just one on one. And today her coach had also somebody booked in the space at the same time. And she was like, hey, we can reschedule for a little bit later if you want, or just want to make sure you're okay with someone else being training at the same time. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, thank you so much for giving me the offer, but I'm podcasting like at 7. So it'll be way too tight timeline. And I kind of want to challenge my anxiety. Like it scares me that it's just my second training session with her. So I'm obviously still new and
Yeah.
nervous about it and don't want to look stupid. But then I was just like, why? Well, everyone starts somewhere, and this is
Yeah.
a beautiful opportunity to challenge. And I don't know if it's anxiety or just nerves. Like I don't know at this point. I don't really know like what's the difference between, let's say, heightened nerves and then full like an anxiety. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm not
That's good.
panicking. I'm just
Yeah.
being like,
I
"Oh,
think
I'm a
that's
bit
good.
nervous," right? So it's like
Yeah.
I pushed through it
That's
today, and
huge, dude.
so I told her, and she was like, "Whatever you want." And I was like, "Thank you for being so accommodating." I was like, "But honestly, I need to push through this because the things in my brain are like these people are going to make fun of me, but that's not true. And
No.
even if they are, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Look silly.
And
Whatever. You should look
ex-
silly.
Totally. And just
Have
another point, then
fun.
have fun. And to another point, that I disagree when people say, and this is probably going to be a unpopular hot take. I don't agree when people say, when you go to the gym, no one's paying attention to you, everyone's paying attention to themselves. Don't be anxious about it. I'm sorry,
No.
no.
I'm paying
I'm
attention to
looking at
everything.
people. I'm
Yeah.
looking at
So,
everything. I have anxiety. I have like
yeah.
I'm in survivor mode, so I am looking at everything. Now, am I judging some people? Maybe. I'm not going to fucking lie. Like, but that is none of their business. And as
Yeah.
long as I'm not saying anything to them or hurting them or treating them any different, then I don't really think that matters. So I think it's a false thing to tell people to go to the gym and not worry. Everyone's paying attention to themselves because A, that's not true. And B, I would say challenge people to not give a fuck if someone's looking at you at the gym, or
I
push
just
yourself.
smile.
Exactly. But just
Like,
meaning like, what if they are judging you?
fuck it. Well, like, remember
Is that
that
your
I was
business?
text you the other day and I was like, the craziest fucking thing happened at the gym.
Yes.
I've been going to the gym in the morning and seeing this chick for the longest time. She's dope. She does some crazy fucking, like, I'm not sure if she's powerlifting.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the vibe, but she's fucking strong. And
Yeah.
I've been like doing a fucking set of my own and like won't start and I'll just wait. And from across the gym, I'll see her and I'll be like, yeah, fucking get it, girl. Like, get it. I do it. There's been a couple girls where I've seen them do some pretty crazy fucking lifts and I'm like, in the background, just like, get it, girl, get it.
Yes.
And so, but this girl, I just thought she fucking hated me. Like I was like, oh, I had this idea that she thought that I was just this one of those other girls that just like wears the cute outfits. And I'm like, I think you can look cute and work out at the same time. I think there's
Whatever
that.
makes people
But
look good.
I walked in the gym the other day and I was wearing this outfit and I was feeling myself. And I fucking walk in and she's just like, holy shit, I love your outfit. Like that, not even we've never said hi to one another, not once ever. And
She got
it was
brought
just
this
like that.
time.
It was so cool because it was like maybe she wasn't fucking judging me. Maybe that's just the impression
Totally.
of myself that I think that people have of me
Yeah.
that
And
I've
just
created in my head.
exactly. And because she didn't say anything to you, because your default is that you're a piece of shit, then it
Yeah.
must be you. And it's not her. And so funny because the same thing happened to me. We talked about it. And now,
Yes.
me and her, Darian, you're probably watching and listening. I told her the same thing. Like, I thought you didn't like me. And it's nothing she did. She didn't do a fucking thing to me
It's
at
all in the
all.
head.
It was just like we didn't make eye contact. And I'm like, oh, because
Body
I'm
language,
old.
dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people are focusing at themselves, but you know what I mean? Like, it's funny how you just create these narratives in your head for no reason. And now it's like
Literally.
and it's so funny. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but sometimes I'll go to work and like I'll see someone at first, I'm like, ooh, I don't love this person. And then you end up being like best friends with them because you're so similar and you're just
Yep.
starting out. I know you have have had this too before. And then you
Oh
end
my
up
god,
just being
yes.
the greatest friends because like, and it was kind of funny because Grant even said that, and now he won't let it go. And he was like, I told you she's probably just in the same headspace that you are. And she probably thinks that maybe you don't like her either because you guys just haven't like eye connected or had that moment. And you've just made up this bullshit in your head. And maybe
The
you're preventing yourself from this friendship. And I'm like, you're totally right. And so, I had to like full blown, and now it's just like, love you, can't wait to, like making plans, doing all this stuff. And I just think it's so cool when you can face that, because what are we
yeah.
blocking ourselves on from? And again, is it anxiety or is it just heightened nerves? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we over label shit. You know what
I'm
I
on the
mean?
same
Like,
page as you as the
right?
whole thing. Like I don't get like crippling anxiety anymore. And I'm like wondering now, even thinking if you're calling it anxiety or if it's just like the body remembering like the memories, right? The
Not
storing of
reprogramming
the
it. Yeah.
memories in your body
Hmm.
and certain circumstances triggering familiarities that make you feel like you're having that same like holy shit I'm gonna
Reaction.
die fight or flight, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
I'm like I feel like I just psychology the shit out of myself like with that one. I'm like, did we just debunk anxiety?
With myself 100%, and I think that's too. And honestly, again, as much as I hate to credit my fiance all the time, but I will give him that. When we first met, I told him I have anxiety and he was super respectful. After like a year though, he was like, why do you think that? Like, who told you that you have this? Like, what? And and as time went on and I started like taking care of my body and taking care of myself, that anxiety started to dwindle down. And it was
Yeah.
like, okay, was I actually having anxiety or was my body reacting like because I wasn't
So the
taking care of it?
everything, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, and I think we've talked about this before. When I
Wild.
was medicated, I couldn't create. So, the way I'm trying to look at it now is anxiety, pent up energy that we haven't been able to flow, either because we're not in alignment with our purpose. Maybe there's something stagnant. We're not able to expel that by like physical fitness or art or singing or dance, whatever it is. Is that just kind of because a lot of people are stagnant? Do we actually have anxiety or do we have pent up energy and nerves that we haven't addressed or faced? And so it's like you said, putting our bodies in this fight or flight.
Yeah.
But again, it's a lot of the shit is made up in our heads and you can people could be pissed off about it. But how powerful is that it's in your head and you can fix it? Why
Right.
is that? Why is that so angering to people? I don't get that. We're like,
Me
you
neither.
can change your thought pattern. They're like, fuck you, I've got anxiety. You're like, okay. Well,
I
I had
remember
it.
thinking that though. I remember
Same.
thinking that in the beginning, and I'm here. We are in the same place at the same time, and I'm like, I don't know. I handle things better. I
You do.
manage. I know how to breathe now
Mhm.
properly because breathing is actually really important. Like breathing through your
Yes.
nose is so
And
crucial
properly.
and
And
yeah,
properly, like
right.
deep, like expanding your belly instead
Yeah,
of
like when
like,
you're having moments of like intense, like, like heightened nerves, let's say, you
Mhm.
can like take three really sharp, like deep breaths, like fast. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it like, I don't know, it's crazy. Like the way it just regulates. Like it's like
Yeah.
you have to focus so hard on like the breathing for a second that you completely forget about whatever the fuck you're actually freaking out about. And then it just like
Mhm.
pulls you back and you're like, oh,
Totally.
and
And
the
when you
mind is
find
powerful. So like
it
what you
is.
think you attract. And that's why like it's neat because the both of us have been on the same path changing things. We speak less negatively to
Mhm.
ourselves.
Mhm.
We have gratitude. We we meditate in our own
Mhm.
ways. So
Mhm.
it's funny how just changing like habits can
Totally.
make such an impact on your physical and overall well-being.
Totally. And I read something the other day that hit me like a shit ton of bricks. It was saying that our subconscious doesn't know the difference of hatred to another than to ourselves. So
Yeah.
if we share hatred to other people, our minds are actually saying that to ourselves. And that one hit me hard. I'm like, shit. Not that I sit here and spread hate, but like I definitely
No.
have jealous moments. I definitely
Yeah.
have all the emotions that everyone has. And I think it's total bullshit when people say that they don't. I do get jealous. I do get insecure. I do fucking react. I'm not perfect and I will continue to work on it, but it's a continual evolving journey and it's never going to
Yeah.
be perfect. And we have grace with ourselves, right? And that's why we have our tools and the people. And then when you realize once you set up your foundation with like eating well, sleeping, like the basics
Drinking
that we
water.
know, drinking water, sleeping properly, prioritizing, like you said, the meditations, the self talk, like I think that's where people miss out. They're so busy listening, there's so much noise all day. How much do you sit there and listen and be quiet to yourself and actually check in with yourself? And
Yeah.
if you don't do that, it's going to manifest in some sort of mental or physical illness, in my opinion.
Yes.
In my opinion.
So
And I
much has
think
changed. Like, yeah, and
totally.
I don't know, it's crazy. I can 1000% agree with that completely. Like,
Nothing, no anxiety is going to be worse than being unvaccinated through the pandemic, to be fucking quite honest with you at the beginning. Like, I don't care.
bro,
I don't care if y'all done. I'm not. Um,
that was
like,
fucked.
like the
That was
anxiety watching the
next
fucking
level shit.
Freedom Convoy too. Like when the police came out, like my heart was in my fucking throat. And now it's like of course they talk about other things. And I'm like, nope, not being a part of it. But I definitely fed that. And I believe that I was a part of the problem that manifested that pandemic because I fucking fell right into the fear and I was 100% manifesting my reality as well. I'm sure everybody else was. And now that we know the power of that too, whenever
Yeah,
I see something else or someone shares something, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not listening. Like, nope, like it's good to be aware. I think we talked about this last time. It's good to be
exactly.
aware, but you can get yourself in a fit. So, next step, even though I'm going to kind of jump, but depression. So, when we talked about your depression, you had experienced like severe and you were just kind of coming out of that.
Oh,
Since
fuck.
since then, have you had any spouts of like I know you have your down days. I'm not saying you don't, but like thinking about it now, do you have that deep depression anymore?
No.
Nice. So proud of
And
you.
there's literally been days where I'm just like vibing, having a good time. And I just feel like this like fluttery like lightness in my heart. And I like low key, I'm just like, is this is what happy feels like, and I say it out loud every time because I'm just like it's like mind blowing because I remember there was so many times where I would just be crying or just so down in the pit, and I would just be like, there has to be something better than this, there
Mhm.
has to be, and I just kept digging and clawing and fighting my way out. And so it's like, again, how did that start? One positive word, like set of words, affirmation that I took a picture of on like with a Polaroid, and I put on the frame of my door, and I would say it, I would read it every time, and I would say it back to myself in my head. And I did that for like a year.
Mhm.
I changed the narrative in my own mind. I changed my own voice. I changed the things I was saying to myself. I started feeling better. I started loving myself. I started feeling more confident, sexy, even, you know? So
Mhm.
it's just like
Totally. I remember
when
the sassy pictures you were taking and sending to me. I'm like, yes, queen, I'm so proud of you. Own it.
when people like, and that's why I always want to be helpful, and I always want to be kind, and I always want to hear people out. But when people get that stuck in that narrative that there's no way out, or there's
Escape.
no way to change anything, I'm like, yo, let let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Let's just have a little chat for a second, and let me tell
Yes.
you on the simplest way to start changing your life. And it is just really, you spend the most time in your own head, right?
Mhm.
So you need to have positive words in there. You have to have positive thoughts in there. And I'm not saying that you need to like kibosh the negative.
Mm-mm.
It's just on like understanding that you need to have a balance. And if you're putting out negative, you're going to have negative. If you have putting out positive, you're going to get positive. And somewhere in the middle, it just kind of balances itself out, and you learn to function through the negative and the positive. You take the highs on the highs and the lows are the lows, but you don't get stuck in it. And
Yep.
it's quite miraculous when, and like, I was like so many things. It was like fucking COVID 2020, like all
Oh
the
my God.
adrenochrome shit. Like I
Oh,
was in a
Pizzagate.
fucking
Ah,
like tunnel of chaos, and it
everything
was
is
so
poison.
fucked up. And I remember being like, so I remember being depressed after that, and I was like, fuck, what am I doing? I thought I was getting better, and now here we are.
And
Now
I pushed
fuck.
myself. I did this to myself. Like,
And that,
okay,
yeah,
I'm going to keep watching these series of the fall of the cabal, even though I'm terrified of everything. But let's watch the
I
next
had
one.
to finish it. I
Yes.
had to finish it.
Yeah.
It was like an
Have you
obsession. It was
seen
like,
have you seen up to like 23 or 24 now before she passed? It's up to like 24 or 25 or something like that.
I didn't even know that was happening.
Yes, I'll send it to you. Yeah.
I was
I only
like,
watched till 1 to 10 and then I found out there's 11 to 20 and then I found out there was other ones after that have to do with COVID, the vaccine, all of that.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, I'll
that's
send it to you.
crazy.
I know it's on Rumble.
Yeah,
It's
so
nuts.
freaking circle back. Here we
Yeah.
go. The
Yes.
depression thing, no, I don't.
Mm,
I understand, like, I do get quite low dips in my mood for
mhm,
sure when I'm, is it what phase of my mid? I can't remember if it's just before my
mhm.
period.
Yep.
And but I
All my
now I
alternation.
just, because I've been tracking it,
Mm,
you'll be very proud.
I'm
I
so
am very on pretty on point with my period, and
perfect.
it's like So we can kind of, yeah, we can jump
Let's
into a
segue
couple
into the birth
topics.
control.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
right?
Yeah, let's do that one because I think that one's important. So if you don't know, if everyone knows, I've been off birth control. Fuck, I don't know. It's been like 4.5 years now. After my first miscarriage that I'm aware of with Grant,
Yeah.
I was done. It wasn't serving me.
I'm
And
al
now,
dente.
yeah, you're done.
No, you like when
Oh yeah,
that's
no, I
right.
was
Yeah, you're
done.
like you're
Yeah,
al dente.
yes, yes, yes. And one thing I will say, what heartbreaks me is when people tell me that their spouses don't allow them to go off birth control. And I said this in my story the other day, and I was kind of aggressive about it. But like, essentially, if you're telling your spouse not to do that, unless there's real reasons that, as valid, like maybe the birth control does help said person with whatever they have, which I don't think so, fuck you. And you don't get to govern that. And just, like tracking, I'm not going to say it's not going to get you pregnant, but science says that you can only get pregnant for like essentially a day, and sperm
Yeah,
can
I
be
think
held
maybe
a couple
two.
days. Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
there's
couple
a very
days. So
short window.
exactly. And it's a very short window. And to be quite honest, just either don't do anything, do hand stuff, do butt stuff, does not matter, or don't do anything if you don't
Yeah.
want to get pregnant. But like the amount of side effects that people have, just myself. So now, as people, if you're watching my story, you know that I just took a Dutch test to send off to see what actual damage is happening to my hormones, something I'm been terrified to do. Um,
Good for
and
you.
because I might have to go on pharma to balance myself back out. And as terrifying as that is, it's also terrifying living with these
Yeah.
ailments and not having them fixed. And it literally makes my life hell being cold all the time in the winter. I
Think about
hate
it like a stepping stone, I would say.
exactly. And
You
not all
know,
pharma is
you're not
bad.
going to be reliant on it.
Nope.
It's just something to help bring you to the middle ground so that your body can take over and do
Yes.
the functions that it's supposed to, right?
Yes. And I feel like if I leave it, continual hormone imbalance leads to way worse things. So instead of
Yeah.
avoiding it, I'm hitting it straight on. But I believe that my infertility, my hormone imbalance, and my vitamin depletion is all from birth control personally.
Hmm.
So I still track. I use Flow. I know some people have issues with that because they track information. Totally get that. To do it on a fucking calendar or
I
put it
have it
in
on a
your
calendar.
calendar. Yeah,
Yeah.
put it in your calendar, mark it, and then go 1 month reminder, and you'll have an idea. And like you can track when you have sex. So like if you are off birth control entirely, you can, track when you're having sex and just make sure. Like my spouse is on a oil field thing, like a schedule, and I'm not on birth control, yet we still manage to have sex multiple times when he's home. Like it's very rare. I mean, there's been some times where he comes home and I have my period the whole time. I'm like, sorry. But for the most part, like, yeah, you can plan it out. It is just radical adult responsibility that you have to
Yeah.
take, and you have
Yep.
to put over, let's say, like this is gonna sound terrible, but like penetration pleasure, you just gotta find to be creative, like
Yeah.
find other avenues. Like we do the pull-out method. I'm not suggesting that for anybody. I come with infertility, so it's a little bit easier to be like, well, you know even if
Yeah.
it happens, it might not happen, which if it does now, like it is what it is. But yeah, so I'll keep you guys posted with that. Obviously you, Kayla, but it just happened, so
Okay.
probably it'll take about a month for us to hear back, and then I have to book
Cool.
my appointment. So I'll keep you guys posted where that is. I know a lot of women are suffering with their hormones right now, and this is through the naturopath. So it's a P test that you do that tests all your hormones, your cortisol, your adrenals, all that stuff. And then you send it off to the states, and the lab comes back and you review it, and then you can kind of decide a treatment plan there. So I've been, me, I'm terrified of the medical industry, but I'm
Yeah.
also terrified of ignoring this, and so I'm trusting Dr. Bean to
Yeah.
guide me through this. And I trust her because she believes in informed consent, and she actually
You are
informs
aligned.
people. Yeah, very aligned with her. She stood
Good.
up for us during the pandemic. So I know she'll never force anything on me, but I also know that she'll give me all the information I need to make an informed choice. As much as I want like a freedom doctor, sometimes the crunchy freedom community, some bad people get in there and sell stuff they shouldn't
Yeah.
be selling as well to people as a
Yeah.
cure. So really it's not any industry, any race, any age, any gender, it's people are shit. So you kind of have to trust. So I'm trusting. I'm still off the BC. I'll never go back. But what about you, my love? Where are you at with your birth control?
We just had this conversation and it's so fucking funny. I think you're gonna love this. This is absolutely like it now. I just thought about it and I'm like, wow, that's actually so funny. So my IUD has now expired.
Mm.
It was expired last month, as of last month, and
And
I
which one do you
haven't
have again?
the
The
Marina.
Marina? Yeah,
Yeah, so that's the one with the hormones, the synthetic progesterone.
right.
Um, I've told him before about how it makes me feel,
Mhm.
and he is on board with whatever I choose. But we have chosen, because we want to get married in the next couple years,
Mhm.
we would rather wait.
Mhm.
And I'm like, this whole nonsense that women age out at 35 needs to just be shot. Like, I'm not worried about it. I was
Mhm.
so worried about it, and I was letting it consume me to the point where I was going fucking crazy, and I was depressing myself and giving myself heightened nerves or anxiety, because I was like, oh my God, if we don't, I'll be like, I'm 33, we're going to be married. But you know what, bitch? Just take your
Mm-mm.
IUD out like 4 months before you get married.
Yes, totally.
Boom.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's the
And
plan. It's coming
yeah,
out. So I'm going to put a new
replace it.
one in.
Yeah. Okay, good. I was like, okay,
I'm
hold on.
gonna keep it because I
Yeah.
was like, it would be silly to have like
A
a
shotgun
not
wedding
an
almost.
yeah, well, like
Yeah.
an oopsie. Like,
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
not, we don't. I As responsible adults, I think that it would be just too much to take on while trying to plan all that
Totally.
financially.
Yep.
I want to have certain aspects. I want to have my wedding. I want to have the wedding, right?
Mhm.
So, and I am also, my vanity side, I don't want to be pregnant. I know some people get pregnant and they just go for it, and that's fine. And if that happens to us too, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
I can kind of plan that. So we're gonna
Totally.
take it out, replace it, and then closer to the time of the wedding, she's coming out, because I was
Yep.
like, we've people's a lot of the reasons people don't right away have kids is because they want to spend time married. Him and I
Totally.
have been together going on 7 years in
Mhm.
January. So I'm like,
Mhm.
we have spent a good chunk of time together. We have learned a lot together. We have raised a child
Mhm.
together. We got a fucking cat together.
Yeah, it's so
Like,
cute.
I don't know. He's just a
Bruce.
really dope human, and it's just,
Yes.
yeah, it's good. I don't want to go back on. That's the final point to that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No, but I think it's beautiful to be like, so we've always talked about it's informed consent, right? Like you're
yes,
aware of how you feel with the birth control, you know what it's doing. And right now, the risks of being off it don't outweigh the risks of you being on it. And you discuss
yes,
that as a couple. And if you turned around and was like, Ryan, I need this out and I want it done. And sorry, we're going to have maybe a little bit less sex or a little bit more strategic sex
yeah,
because I just can't do it. I have no doubt in my mind that man would support you through that. And
yeah.
completely agree. Like things happen when they happen, but sometimes if you're a fertile person, that can
I
throw
am.
things off. And I'm so tired of
Yeah,
people being like, you want to have a pregnancy at the right time, in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of people just do it because that's next, or that's what you do, or that'll fix the relationship,
yeah.
and it's like, no, it's okay to be married for a little bit. It's okay to not want to be pregnant or have a toddler at your wedding or a
It's
newborn
it's
at your
crazy, like
wedding.
the fucking presumptions people put out. Like,
Always.
so it's like, you just got engaged, so when are you having a baby? Or before you're even married or engaged at
Yes.
all, when are you guys having kids? It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, let me just, like,
Oh,
I just feel like I climbed out of a dark hole. Can we just, like, live a little? Like, holy
girly,
fuck.
tell me, and then no, and then have to turn around and be like, I'm
Ugh.
sorry, I probably can't have kids and have that fucking
Mm,
look
mm.
and that, like, you know what I mean? It is like, I
That,
totally
like,
get it.
sympathy thing where you're
Yeah, it's
like,
like, oh, I'm so sorry, and you're like, okay, yeah, I know, thank you, like, totally, thank you, but I'm not. I didn't
we
ask for
also
that.
didn't
This
need to have this conversation. So,
we
like,
don't have to ask anymore. I get it 20 years ago. I get it even 10 years ago. But my dudes, people are fucking furries and pretending to be animals and getting married. Like I think
yeah.
the like normal questions now, like how you doing? What's new? Like those kind of basic
How's life?
questions. How's life? What's new? But not like when are you having kids? Like okay, we've been together 7 years. It will be 8 years in January. I think we're maybe 1 year ahead of, like not ahead, but like
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, we've been together for 8 years and we haven't had a kid yet. I don't think we're just waiting. Like, yeah, obviously want to get married and do it the right way, but
Yeah.
like maybe there's something else in there,
People just
just a
don't
thought,
think about that
just a thought.
shit. And it's
No, unless they've lost a baby. And then it's like, again,
right.
like we've talked about how we've had to work through this, like,
Yeah.
especially through the whole, which I guess we can kind of lead down to like miscarriages and pregnancies, which is great to know. So, like, we all know that Kayla and Ryan are going to have another baby one day, but it's beautiful that you don't feel rushed anymore because honestly, my mom had me at 19 and then she had her boys again in her 30s. And I guarantee you she will tell you that if she had a choice, she loves me. I'm not saying that she'd take me back, but she would always say that having her kids in her 30s was more beautiful. And I would argue that we're healthier in our 30s than we ever were in our 20s, like mentally,
Oh
physically.
yeah. I'm a
So
whole
like
different person.
whole different person. So like you having a baby in a couple years, think about the growth over just these couple or even through cash,
Yeah.
right? Like who you're going to be when you had cash versus when you have this new baby, like it's going to be such a world of a difference. Like yeah, obviously there'll be some like downfalls. Yeah, you are getting older, but okay, being young and a mom too wasn't easy. So like
No, and I mean
what's
it's nice because this time, or like I just feel more solid this time.
totally
And I having gone through it and gone through it, all the things, it's like, and to have Cash, and he was such an amazing baby, and he's an amazing kid. He's just going through all the normal motions of life, right? And just like learning how to jump those hoops and obstacles. But it was like the most miraculous feeling, dude, when I was like, I was literally, I think I was standing in the bathroom, and it was like, just like, like light just flowing over me when I was like, you can have a damn baby with him any fucking time.
100%. Good for
Like,
you.
what the fuck planet are you on right now where you're
Yeah.
letting this
Whose
shit
timeline?
consume you and
Yeah.
create this fear and anxiety that you, what if you can't? What if you can't? Fuck it. Like, we've,
Then you adopt because
right?
you
We're
know how
so
well
good.
that went
Everything's
through, right?
fine. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just not going to worry about that shit. The universe
No.
has got
It's
plans
got
and
you.
it's got
It's
us.
giving. And
It's
it's so
giving.
great. I love
We're
that. So like
receiving.
we're receiving, we're giving, we're flowing, we're abundant. Fuck all the negativity. No, just kidding. But it is, it's beautiful. And like for us, we've talked about like obviously I'm on this hormone journey, but that's not for fertility. And that's great if that so but again, like at the same time thinking like, okay, yeah, you're in your 30s, you're in your early 30s. I'm heading into 40 in the next couple years, right? So
Yeah.
I'd say like 40. I don't know if I'd really want to push it later. I do know women who did for sure.
Yeah.
But for me, I
There
think where
are
I'm
risks
at,
too, right? Like,
totally. And I think for me, it's not even the risks of having a baby at that age. It's going through the mental anguish of trying and maybe not being able to conceive because
yeah.
or like to hold the baby because I know how painful it was to not be trying and to have those miscarriages just come out
Yeah.
of nowhere and how painful that was. The thought of putting my body through that with all the like type of scar tissue and
It's
stuff that
traumatizing
it is traumatizing. And then I always go back
mentally,
to
right? Like,
look how beautiful Kayla turned out. And it's all because someone adopted her. And
saved my
with
fucking life.
exactly. And so I always think too, like, is that why Kayla came into my life to show me that there's other ways of being a mom and that I can do this. And if I do go through it, I have Kayla and Debbie to, lean to. And of course that comes with a whole bunch of different questions, like
Yeah.
did the parents vaccinate? Were they vaccinated? Like I hate to do
Yeah.
that,
Oh
but
my
like
God.
what were those choices? Am I gonna fuck their baby up by making my own like crunchy choices? Like will the parent, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm
Yeah.
sure Debbie understands all of those things. I'm sure she went through it too. It's just a whole new layer. But at the same time, saying again, we don't need to adopt next month. So why don't we just focus on getting married, setting up
Yeah.
a good life, and in 1 or 2 years, if that opportunity presents and we feel good, we'll do it. But my worth does not depend on if I have a child or not, because
Yeah.
if I was a mom, I wouldn't be here. And not that the podcast is saving people's lives or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? I couldn't be the friend that I am. I couldn't be the employee. Like there's so many other things to me that I couldn't do. So I just focus on those things and think, okay,
Yeah.
I could just be a mother or a cool aunt to all these people. And maybe 20 years down the road, I'll regret that decision. But at the same time, I know people that regret having their children. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like half a dozen, 1/6 of the other. Like you said, the universe has got me and it always shows up and it always gives what I need in whatever capacity. So I'm leaving it to universe and to God to direct where that's going to go. And yes, I believe in God. I know I don't talk about that much. I haven't in a long time. I've had my issues. I have issues with religion. I'm sorry. Let me repeat that. I've never had issues with God. I've always had issues with religion, which then
Yeah.
tainted my relationship with God. And now that's changed. I do believe in the higher power of universe, but I do believe in God as well. And I'm really been leaning into that faith lately, and it feels really good because it does like that faith of like the universe, God, it's got me. Whatever they think
Yeah.
I can handle, I'll handle. And if that's not meant to be, then next round, next life that I'm here, next meat suit, maybe I'll get to do that, right?
Yeah. Next
So let's
suit.
so let's go like maybe last topic for right now, body image. So I feel like me and you, although I still have some dysmorphia, I'm not going to
Oh,
sit here and
dude.
say I don't, but
Every other day, it's like,
It gets hard. It gets hard on social media, right? Like
Yeah.
when I got hacked and didn't get to see social media, I feel like my relationship with my body got better because I was like not looking at the plethora of comparison that is
Yeah.
available at my fingertips. Before, to age myself, you only had to worry about the hot people that were around you because you didn't see what else was out there. So
Yeah.
it's like, you had a handful of hot people that you're looking at. And now with social media, it's like not even real hot people, it's like fake photoshopped people on top of that.
And AI.
In an AI and all that stuff. So it's like there's a big part of me I feel that has grown with my body dysmorphia in a way that I'm not obsessed with the gym anymore. I'm not obsessed with if I ever have abs. I don't care. Now I want to
Yeah.
be athletic and I want to be like physically able. That's why I'm boxing. That's why I'm doing jumping, all these cardio
Hell
things and
yeah.
only training 3 to 4 days a week because honestly, my body dysmorphia was making me go 6 to 7 days a week because I was like if I don't go, I'm
It's
going to
almost
lose
like a
it.
punishment, right?
Ah,
And now
yes.
you're kind of existing in like this, like you shifted gears. And
Mhm.
let me tell you something. I think that is the crucial point in you're gonna really notice because like when you sent the pictures of you in the wedding dress, I was like, God, fucking damn, she looks good. Like what the fuck? I was like blown away, and I'm just like, okay, hearing you say that now, I had that exact same fucking shit
Mhm.
in my head. I was like, you are the only one that is making this like a torture cycle. So
Totally. Like
you
you're doing
can
it to
make it
yourself.
better.
Yes.
And I have, and I don't know if I've told you, but I'm biking now.
Yeah. I fucking love that. That's amazing.
Not my, like, it wasn't by choice. It was like kind of more so had to. But in a
Yes. Go ahead.
way, like we said, I was saying, it's pushed me.
Mhm.
And there were times where I'm like, I'm trying, supposed to hit a certain amount of steps, like between 10 to 12,000, right?
Totally.
And at my job, there's not always times where I can have that ample space to move
Mhm.
around.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm kind of in a crammed little area where I'm basically have room to sit.
Just moving your
So
legs up and down, pretending to
yeah,
walk.
biking has like
Yeah.
forced me
Mhm.
to like push a little harder. I'm like really on top of my food. I'm making sure I'm eating so that I'm energized to ride and train and work and come home. But
Mhm.
like I feel so much better. It's like
Totally.
all you really had to do was just like kick it up a little bit. You were doing some of the things, but you were cutting short on some of the other things. So it's like the
Yeah.
only reason that you aren't where you want to be is because you are not giving your fullest potential. And I
Totally.
feel like forcing myself to ride the bike to the gym to then destroy my legs or my, like, I'm getting
Mhm.
fucking strong.
You are. I
And
know. I'm so proud.
yeah, it feels good. And it's like
Mhm.
low key kind of nice because it's like a little less injury prevented, right? Like I
Mhm.
feel like better than I think I felt in a long time.
Yes, and I think too before you had some guidance that was a little too intense for what you're needing. Just talking about earlier about how people compare
Yes.
themselves to coaches and people that live and breathe in fitness. And I know I pissed a
Yeah.
bunch of people off by saying that, but I'm sorry, everyday people do not need to be living like bodybuilders that are competing. Point
Well, and
blank
a lot of them
period.
are even like changing, right? Like
Totally.
the narrative's changing where they're
Mhm.
coming out and they're talking about like how chaotic it is to be in that
Space.
regime and
Yeah.
then to try to go back and then their body dysmorphia like it people are really
Mhm.
coming out and talking about it now and I think
Yes.
it's incredible and it's good because it's not sustainable and
Yeah.
that's the one thing that they people fucked up in the beginning is just like not being honest and like saying from like this isn't sustainable.
Mm-mm.
You can't like and some but there are a few there
There
are a
are. There
handful
are.
of people that
Yep.
I totally know that I follow that are like beach body bikini sees all year round and I'm like good for you. Like that actually took a lot of time and discipline to
Mhm.
get to that to be able to maintain that but still look healthy, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm. Yeah.
they're not by any means like too skinny or too muscular, but they're just in that right kind of in the middle, you know, like
Yeah, the
they
healthy
look,
balance.
yeah, they look really good. They got the muscle
Athletic.
cuts. Yeah, like it's just, it's like I'm here for it. I'm here
Yes,
for it.
it's not the dried out, and it's not shade to anybody, but there's some people that are like dried out year round, always wanting to have that six pack abs. And like, ladies, it is unhealthy to have no body fat, okay? It is extremely unhealthy, especially if you're trying to birth a baby for any reason. That little fupa pouch that we all have, okay, that's normal. We need it. And honestly, most men love it. Like I wore this like the wedding dress that I love, the one, the one. We
Yeah.
all know the one. That one, it's very like fitting, and I could see a little bit of a stomach. Also just had breakfast, but at the same time, I was so proud of my little stomach. I was like, this is so cute. Like I don't need to have a six pack in this dress because it fucking looks banging. Like I
Yeah.
had absolutely no body dysmorphia in that dress. I felt in a lot of them I
You
did,
looked
but that one,
stunning, like
thank you. And my back,
stunning.
I was like, holy shit, I have taken my back from like this to like this. And now, like I said, it's that motivation, but I'm not torturing myself because I'm like, I'm at a maintenance
It's a healthy
space.
drive,
It's a
right?
healthy drive. And it's like, I'm going to the gym to look good for my future husband or for my health or for my future.
Or for my
And now,
fucking self.
or myself, but it is. It's
Yeah.
like, sometimes it's a little
Yeah,
motivating being
absolutely.
like, oh, I'm going to
Absolutely.
show up. I'm going to be a bride. I'm in my bride era. So, like, I'm not going to beat myself, but also can also start, just finding a different motivation in the gym. And I'm glad that you brought up the fitness comps where we talk about bodybuilders, because that is something we also did talk about quite a bit in
Yeah.
season one, and had people come in of all different levels. Like we had Hillary with powerlifting, we had like Chelsea do figure, we had Tracy and Angela talk about bikini, and Michelle talk about like the fitness competitions.
Yeah.
And I loved how all those women were very honest about how hard it was, their trials and tribulations. But when you look on social media, you don't see that very much at all. And that's what I was kind of calling out. Like just because it looks like their lives are amazing and that they could do all this, they're also sacrificing a lot of stuff. A lot of these individuals don't get to do events, they don't get to hang out with their friends, they have to think about what they're eating. And like again, no shade to anybody that's doing that, but you can't be 100% all of them. You can't be 100% friend, spouse, mother, employee, bodybuilder, cut, like work out twice a day, weigh out all your food. Like if you're not in a competition, why do you need to be living like that?
Yeah.
Like I get it, I have goals too, but I think there is some dysmorphia there, and it breeds from very badly in the fitness industry where, like you said, there's people that don't go on off season and they just do like 4 or 5 competitions a year, and they're just continually, and I think that they're afraid to go, not all of them, but I think a lot of them are afraid to go back to their regular bodies and just live a regular life because you're so controlled, you're so planned, you're
Yeah.
so that
And
once you
then
don't
what do you do
have
when you're
that,
not in that, you know?
all that space and time feels like a
Yeah.
breakup almost, right? And
Yeah,
what are you feeling with
absolutely.
that? And if you're not aligned to being an athlete, to do it for the athleticism of bodybuilding, that's where I think people get caught up in the vanity of it. And then they're doing it for misalignment, then they don't feel good. And then they're comparing themselves, and it's like, I'm sorry to be this way. And I'm going to be real for a second, but like the amount of like love and support for people that are bodybuilding that don't even know each other. And it's not even real half the time. Like, I'm sorry, everybody that's in the same class that's cheering you on, deep down inside, you want that bitch to fall. Sorry. Let's be honest there, right? Like, maybe not. Maybe I'm just not a sportsman like person, but I just don't feel that there's a lot of honesty and informed consent. And people will go into these competitions, let's say women taking gear, and all of a sudden now they're from Brenda to a Bobby because now their clit is growing and now they have a penis. Like, now you're halfway through your transition. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And some of these women had no idea. And all of a sudden now they've got, a long clit and it won't go back in. And so it's like informed consent when you're doing this stuff. And,
Yeah.
I know coaches that are out there that push it, and there's limits that are just exceeding. And I think it's sad, but mad respect to anybody that does it, man, because I couldn't fucking do it. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't stick to that regime and that food. Like, no, thank you. I like burgers in the summertime and I like ice cream whenever I'm stoned, which is
Yeah.
always. So, and final one that we could kind of circle about. Well, we talked a lot about cannabis, and especially me being in the job, and then talked about it medically and recreationally. And shocker, we're still in cannabis.
Yeah.
I don't plan to leave.
Yeah.
I very proudly will say that last year I got awarded one of the top employees of the company.
Fuck
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I don't really talk about my job much or what I do. Like to you guys, I'll share it. But yeah, we've come so far in the space, and myself in the job and all the merger that we had last year. And now our company is just blown up, and I fucking love it. Like, I get people hate corporate, but when you love your job and the people you're around, like it's not all bad. Like
That's the dream. That is the
it
dream, to love
I
your job and what you do.
yeah, and feel like I'm making a difference. Like nothing feels better that when you tell somebody you're going to do something and they're like, I know you have it." Like, you know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
your name has, like, you've put value to your name at work, and that's just where I've been in this space. And I'm just like, I won't ever go to another company if they ever like let me go for whatever reason. I won't chase cannabis after this. But being an inventory planner, when people ask what I do, I'm like, I just make sure all the provinces have weed. Like at the end of the day, I just make sure that there is cannabis for people to buy. That is,
Yep.
I'm a drug mule and I move it across Canada. Asked me 6 years ago, I would probably be in prison for doing that. So, and
Yeah.
also still very avid user. That being said, I do try to limit my intake. I've been trying to hit the vape pen a little bit more instead of just having like continual cannabis, even though the vape's a little bit harder, but I can only have like one or two puffs versus like a whole joint. So I've definitely been mindful. I would
Yep.
love to dial it back, but I'm just don't feel like I'm there. I don't have a reason. Like, so maybe when I get this hormone thing, she's like, hey, smoking is hurting your circulation and that's why you're cold. Like, that might be something I'm confronted with. But
Ah,
until then, your girl's still a stoner. So that's
same.
me. Yeah. I was like, as she's puffing on a fucking pen. It's like, I
Same.
forgot my pen downstairs. But to me, it's the devil's lettuce, but it's the devil's, I need salad. So,
Yeah.
I'm a
I
vegetarian
love a
that way.
salad.
We love a good salad. And plus, like, my favorite is when me and Kayla taste each other, like, super baked funny thoughts. Like,
Oh,
I don't even
yeah,
remember what we
dude.
were talking about this weekend, or I don't remember it was the weekend before. And you're like, I don't know, I'm just stoned and vibing. And I was like, girl, I feel this deep in my soul.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
love it. Oh, this is so great. I think we pretty much hit all of the topics that we would talk about, because we talked about food and fitness a little bit. And like we said, we're both still doing things, but I think both of us have taken a step back on the intensity and the guilt and all of that of not eating
Changing the
perfect.
intentions too, right? Like you said, like wanting to be athletic, not,
Yeah.
like anytime people are like, why do you go to the gym in the morning before work? And I'm like, it's a peace of mind for me. It's my alone time,
Mhm.
especially when Cash comes home. Um, that's uninterrupted time for me. And like, if you don't set yourself time like that in the day, you become like, what's the word? Fuck.
Like
Burnt out. There we
complacent
go.
and burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, I don't know. And also longevity. I want to
Hmm.
be able to fucking pick up my grandkids and go
Yeah.
for walks with my grandkids and, be able to be self sufficient, take my
Mhm.
groceries in from the car. Like there's all
Yeah.
kinds of shit that
No two trips
and
in this
I still
house.
want to, be lifting when I'm older. You know what I mean? Like there's women
Totally.
and men that are like in their 70s, 80s, and 90s that are just boss motherfuckers. And I'm
I
like,
love
yeah,
it so
I
much.
want
That's
that.
gonna be me. Exactly. That's why I wanted to get my cardio endurance up. It's like, yeah, okay, lifting for sure gets your heart rate up, but it doesn't expel your lungs like hard cardio does, right? And
Yeah.
I think lifting is definitely the staple, but I want 1 or 2 days where like I just did, where I'm struggling to breathe because I'm pushing my body so much and it's sweating and it's going, and like your mind gives up before your brain, right? Like, so tonight in boxing, like I did not feel well. But I was like, just keep pushing through it. I just had like, I didn't know if it was anxiety belly or if it was like my belly was actually upset.
Yeah.
And then I took some pre-workout, which probably didn't help.
Didn't
But
help it.
no, but at the whole time though, I was like, sit at home for an hour feeling shitty, or go boxing for an hour and, trick your brain. And like there was some moments that I like almost thought I was gonna vomit, but that's also pushing yourself too to that limit. And
Yeah.
it's like, not saying that you need to do that every time,
It's
but
intense cardiovascular activity. Like
yeah, and it
it's
feels
intense.
yeah, and it feels so good, like you said, when you're done, because you're like, fuck yeah, I just did that. Like you, it's like,
Yeah.
well, you don't have a choice. You have to bike home. Like,
And then I went for a walk because I was like, oh shit, 7,000 steps. I need to get that up to 10. So I went for like half
exactly.
an hour walk.
Yes, and I'm such a firm believer in data collection when you're actually doing goals, and not to like hold it like aggressively, but what I've just done, I think we've talked about this, is like, okay, on the bike I have to hit 120 cals, and then
Yeah.
next week I have to hit 125, and if that's pushing, then I guess I better get off my phone and fucking pay attention to the bike, and if I don't, I don't, but then I got to look at that data and be like, you suck that day, you suck,
Damn
not in
it.
a bad way, but like
Yeah.
inspiring to be like, you could do better. And today maybe I ranted on social media and I didn't hit that 120, or it took me an extra 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's just being accountable to yourself, because we've talked about this before. You got to adult yourself, right? You got to be
100%.
you got to be the adult. No one's coming to save you. At the
You
same
are the
time, you
only
can
one
eat.
that can.
Exactly. Like you can eat that chocolate cake and you can equally not eat that chocolate cake, or maybe just have like a piece
A
of it, or have
slice.
whatever you
Yeah.
want, a slice, right? But yeah, I think we've gone to the deepest ends of all of these things. We've healed so much and we still have stuff to go, but like,
Yeah.
my gosh, girl, I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud of the
So am
show.
I.
I love it. I cannot wait for this next year for us to like really start planning like bride era and then actually like get
Yes.
to the weddings
Getting
and then
married. Oh
getting
my God.
married and all that. And like, I just have to say, like, guys, you got to get a best friend that's like at this healed part because I believe that there's some people in the world that I'm like, have been close to or like have been best friends that I don't think we had this type of friendship nor going through this wedding. Like, it's just been like, even if things are the same, we're like, oh my God, we're the same, but just like a little bit different. And that's just who we
Yes.
are. We're like the same,
Yes.
but we're different. And it's
Just
like,
a
we
little bit different.
just a little. And it's like, but those differences are amazing and we bounce off each other for that, right? Instead
Yeah.
of like being jealous or like whatever. It's just like, oh my God, you want those colors? Oh my God. Okay, so I want this color with this as an accent. Like,
Yeah.
like can we share decorations? Can like,
Yeah.
and it's just been
Yes.
such a positive thing where it's like I can come to you with any excitement about that and you're not going to be meeting me with jealousy or any of
Ow.
that. And it's so exciting because I've never had that until I met you. That's why I posted the other day, like, you truly taught me that I deserve to have a good friend and I am a good person and that whatever happened to me in past relationships or whatever I accepted isn't what I have to accept anymore. And that no
Yes.
matter what I say or do, I'm sure unless I like PDF'd a child or murdered somebody for the most part, like, which I would never do, like, you're always there, right? Like, even
Yeah.
in my cuntiest moments where I'm like, girl, this is going to sound terrible. Just listen to my anxiety. Let me spew it out. I don't actually mean it. I just got to say this, like, fuck this fucking person, fuck it. But, and then
Yeah.
after I'm like, and now I'm over it and it doesn't steam in my brain and I don't
Yeah.
carry on. I'm like, let me dump just a little
Like
one.
the buffer, right? Like we're
Yeah,
buffers for each
totally.
other.
Yeah, so that we don't fall into that, like you said, that big abyss of depression or that
Yeah. Or the
spiral.
wrong thought pattern where you
Totally. Which,
spiral. Totally.
yeah, very much. And we were always like, stop spiraling. I'm here. You're good. Exactly.
No,
And
no,
there's never
no.
been shame in it. It's like, okay, so what if we had a bad couple of months? That doesn't make us bad people, doesn't make anything. And it's not like we're Debbie Downers because we share positives too. And I think if you don't have
Yes.
a friendship where you can share positives, it just becomes very negative and toxic. So
Yeah. We
with
don't
friendships,
gossip. Like that's something
no.
we
I
don't
mean, about
like.
Hollywood and government
Yeah,
stuff for
like that
sure.
kind
But
of shit. And like maybe, but we're not like doing it in a way where like I've been in circles of people before where the gossip is they're just like putting other people down. It's
yes,
not
yes,
the kind of like we gossip to each other about shit, like just
yep,
life, like, oh, like
yes,
this
totally.
this happened
This
this
happened at
day
the
and then
gym. Yeah,
this happened
yeah,
here, and
yeah.
like, but we're not like shit talking, you know what I
No,
mean? And I think that was like the real game changer is like having a supportive person in your corner that doesn't just want to talk to you and talk shit about shit.
just have stuff more to talk about
Like there's
than
just
gossip.
everything full
Yep,
scope, like a full
totally.
circle, everything that you could possibly, anything and everything that's on the table is just on the table. Like there's nothing out of the question that we can't talk about, and it's refreshing is the word
It
I want to
is.
use.
Yeah, because like that negativity, like we said, our subconscious doesn't know the difference. So if you're around people all the time that are negative, it's like no shade to them, but I just don't want to be at those tables anymore. And it's
Yeah,
not
fuck
toxic
it.
positivity. It's being honest and real, but it's also not like the world sucks, everything sucks, and
Setting a
nothing's gonna
boundary.
change.
You're
Exactly. And
setting
it's
a
like,
boundary.
yeah, it's like, sorry, I don't see the world that way. And unfortunately, you're an energy vampire and I just can't
I
be there
can't.
right now. And I'm always gonna be here.
Toodaloo.
Exactly. But also like don't just trauma dump on people. Like share your
No.
positives too, right? Like that's one thing I've always appreciated is it's not just always been negative. It's like, oh, I'm excited about this again because there's no jealousy. It's just pure celebration for each other's
Yeah.
individuality and the awards or wins or whatever we celebrate together. We hold each other through the losses. We work through it. I'll be like, hey, can you help me work through this? My brain is confuffled. Like, or even like, hey, Kayla, can we work through this because I'm taking this the wrong way? This is how
Yeah.
I'm interpreting it, but I don't feel like that's how you're meaning it. Can you help
Yeah.
me understand? And like it's always been so well received of like, oh no, girl, I didn't mean it like that. Oh,
Yeah.
great. Okay, cool. That was just in my brain. Thank you for clarifying. I do that with Grant too. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm super insecure right now. Can you just like help me work through this? And before in the past, he would react because he thought that I was meaning something he did. And I was
Yeah.
like, it's not anything you're doing. It's something from
It's
the
just me.
past and I just need to rewrite the story by you reminding me that that's not the truth because I'm
Yeah.
stuck in my head and I'm like, yeah, no, you're a piece of shit. And of course he would do this and leave you because you're nobody. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I know. And but then before I would lash out at him without having any context. And he's like, why are you so upset? I'm like, I don't know.
I
And then
don't
now I
know.
started realizing that I would just have these circles in my head. I just needed him to help me break that pattern to write a
Yeah.
new story, a new rut that's positive, right? So yeah, love this conversation as always. Obviously, you guys will get Kayla back on again in season 8, but I'm so glad that we
Yes.
got to start out with you, that we took the hour to catch
Yes.
up. And
Season
guys,
ending, season
season
opening.
ending, season opening. And if you haven't, go back to season 1 and listen to these episodes and
Little
see like where
babies.
we were. Just little baby K and B. I have pictures too.
Babies.
I want to post of us like just at the very beginning, like with your red hair,
Oh my
even,
God.
and yeah, and my pink
That was
chair. Like,
epic. Yes, the
yes, I think
chair.
I've always had my lights. I don't think any season I haven't had
No,
my
you've had
lights.
always had the lights. The
Yeah,
egg chair
and
is new and it's dope.
egg chairs. No, I love it. Grant got
I'm
it
here
for
for
me
the
because he
egg
knew.
chair.
Yes, and I'm going to have a new thing added in here, hopefully for the 200th episode is my goal. So I will share that when I do it, but it'll be something that I'm spending money on me to commemorate the podcast, and something I've wanted for a really long time, but just been really cheap. And now that I'm doing this whole landscape vibe, I have more space to put stuff up. So I'll
Yeah.
have something new for this season.
Cool.
But yeah, Kay, this has been great. Thank you so much for
Thank
catching up with
you.
me. Of course. And guys, as always, like, comment, engage, do everything. Let me know what you think. Let me know about topics you want to be on the show. Reach out to me. I'm always here. You know where to find me. And until next time, guys, bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for the support. I cannot thank you enough for being here. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please give me a follow at the Be Real Babe podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, and Pinterest. You can also find me on Facebook at the Be Real Collective. Until next time, guys, bye.